Okay, I'm going to try this again. This is a new, I basically have my camera mounted on my chest, and I want to see how this works because I want an eye view of what I'm doing. And so often when I'm working on a piece, it's difficult to get that eye view because I have to keep it in a certain spot, and I got my camera over here and I can't really see what it's doing. So I just want to talk about a few things. So I have cut out all the birds, and I'm setting this up so that I can put a light inside of it. And I'm getting away from wanting to slip on my ring bases. And so this is going to be the ring base, but it's not going to be slipped on to this piece because I want people to be able to pick up the sear and handle it and feel it as a sear without the base being on it. Though a lot of my pieces do have it. But that's part of why, though, I've cut out all the birds is so that when there's a light in there, the birds will shine through. Now, one thing I do when I'm carving these sears, when I'm cutting these birds out, it leaves a residue of clay on the inside, and that's essentially where I use one of these sponges on a stick you can get from the ceramic store. You can get them online. The only problem is with these sponges on a stick is it's just one of these little, let me grab one of these over here. It's one of these little sponges, and it's basically screwed on. So there's a screw head that's exposed. So if you just use it as it is, there's a good chance that screw head is going to mar because I use it to clean up. I use it to clean up the interior of my sear. I get it really wet, and I just go in there and I spin it and just clean it up. So what I did is I took a big sponge like this, and I cut it. And I cut it and took off the little sponge and screwed it on. Then I took a little sponge and sewed it on top of this. So I don't have any screws that are going to mar anything. So I do that quite a bit with a lot of my tools, but I'm thinking one thing I can do is get one of those sponges that you use for cleaning dishes. It's basically a round sponge on a stick. Granted, it's not long enough, so I would just cut the stick off, drill a hole in it, put a dowel in it, get another stick like this, drill a hole in it, and then put that dowel into that hole and epoxy them together. And then that way I have a longer stick for doing that application. So another thing I do is I put plastic in here when I'm carving through. That allows me to, so that the residue that's going in there isn't flying around inside the sear. It's basically up against that plastic, and then as I'm carving, I can just take my compressor and blow it out. But see, what happens is if you look real close, you see these little dots. That's residue of clay that is falling through these holes that's getting pressed up against the clay when I set it on this base. So by having the plastic, I just put a plastic bag in there. It allows me to control that. So another thing I do, like from my last video, I kind of showed that I use these pictures of the birds. I cut them out and I place them on here, and then I basically trace it, and then I cut it down like 1/8 of an inch. Once it's cut down 1/8 of an inch, then I go in there with a cordless drill and drill as much of it out as I can without getting near the edges. And that just really speeds up the process of carving them out. And then I go and carve them out cleanly after that. So that's just a little bit about my process. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure what I'm going to do on this outside. I've got some ideas. So we'll see. But I'm kind of curious to see how this video turns out, being that it's the camera's mounted on my chest. And see, what's interesting about it being mounted on my chest, granted, you can see when I'm breathing and the movement I make, but I can actually see what I'm actually filming and what I'm looking at. And then, maybe I could do lives. I have a TikTok membership, and I could do lives where I'm carving. only thing that's really weird about this is that when I do these videos, it's kind of odd because I don't notice my hands shaking. But when I watch the videos and I see my hands just shaking and doing all they do, it's kind of like, really? My hands shake that much? Which the irony of it is shaky hands. And if any of you have been following for a long time, I kind of like things to be perfect. So there's obviously some kind of rhythm to the tremors of my hands. But so having said that, I'm going to see how this turns out, see my whole body moving, see how this video turns out. So everybody take care. Bye now.